what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Creative Process. I'm your host, Tiana Stone. Also go by Tiana Stone, the Creative. And like I said last episode, I have a special guest. Holy crap. Welcome to the show, Carley and Perloff.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, T.
Yo, it's very, very
It's
cool
exciting.
to have you, bro. It's so cool to have you here. So I guess we could go, into introductions. Do you want me to do it, or?
You could start it out.
Okay, so Carley is my bandmate, my friend, real homie, family, cool people. We are bandmates together in our band called Cuddle Puddle, along with Christian Lacey. Shout out to Chris. What's up? And also Carley is just an amazing artist, songwriter, producer, engineer. She's doing a ton of amazing things. And I think, this episode is going to be a really cool episode where you can dive into, her creativity and, being a young artist and definitely starting out into wider, greater things. But yeah, that's a little bit about Carley.
Appreciate you, T.
Yeah.
Gassing me up over here.
Of course.
I see.
Of course.
I want to start out with real quick how me and T met, because I think it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
So T worked for this awesome dude I'm sure you heard in the last episode named Gary Dan over at the Boom Room. Love you, Gare. And she started in college working over there. And when the pandemic hit, I was kind of looking for experience because school kind of sucked because we did everything online.
Yeah.
So I was looking for like some hands-on stuff so we can learn audio. So I joined the team at the Boom Room. I had reached out to Gary, and it was awesome. I met T. She taught me almost everything that I know.
That's a lot.
Her and
Not
Gary,
everything.
her and Gary really helped me out though, like for real. Like the huge disconnect between like learning stuff in school, like maybe concepts or like techniques, but not being able to apply them because you're like online and not like in the studio. So that really was a really big help there. So I appreciate you. And it was really cool to meet T at that time. And we kind of started playing together, and then me and Chris played together in college, and I'm sure you kind of explained this last episode. So we all kind of started playing together, and I'm just really happy. Me and T have been on this creative journey together, doing stuff separately, but helping each other, which I think is really fun. But yeah, I just love it. And I think it's really cool, like, it makes a statement for Philadelphia, because I always say, although Philly's not an industry city, I like it better. Because instead of it being competitive, it's super collaborative. Yeah. And I love that. Like, I'm, like, obsessed because I love working with people. I think everything in a team is better. And I think, like, being less competitive and more, like, collaborative and supportive is, like, a more positive environment. And it helps, like, foster more growth and like more authentic and like genuine growth,
Yeah, I agree. And just like, genuine connections too, because I feel like I can come to you for like creative feedback. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's very valuable in having, as a friend and as like a creative partner as well.
Sure.
I feel like, I can turn to you like, does this sound right? Does this sound cool? And I feel like I mentioned it in the last episode, like, there's value in, like, knowing, like, how to do everything, but we shouldn't, like, tax ourselves to do so.
Right.
And I feel like with you and Chris and just, like, a whole bunch of other people, I can confide in artistically, and I feel like that is so valuable. Like, community and creativity and collaboration, all that stuff is extremely important, and I just really value our friendship.
Yeah, no, same, T. I appreciate you so much. And, like, I think it's cool because, like you said, like, we do things separately and together, and, like, we support each other along the way, which is super important. And I think I'm kind of similar to T in the way of, like, what I do, I guess you could say. Like, a lot of the things that I do are super similar. So, like, I'm a solo artist as well as being in the band. Kind of trying to rebrand that because I've always had a solo artist career, but really trying to hone in the past couple years of not rushing to release anything. Just really writing and really trying to hone in on, like, how do I want people to perceive my solo self? And I feel like that you're on that journey as well because, like, yeah, we have all this music that's, like, dope. And, like, it's not just hearsay. This stuff is cool, okay?
Yes,
like, this music that both of us have. And Chris and Nick over there, like, we're all, like, even though we're together doing, like, this band thing, like, separately, we're just as powerful. Mm-hmm. But I want to know, like, learn how to harness that and, like, take advantage of being patient, trying to be patient,
and
like take advantage of the process versus like the end game. And like I've had a really good time just like writing and like really not forcing myself to record anything unless I really feel it, you know?
Yeah.
And like having this space at Rec that I work at is really cool because I could like book a session and come in and kind of just flush some things out. I'm doing that after this, and
Carly's gonna be doing some cool ass stuff.
always grinding, man.
Always grinding.
I think that's the hardest part too, is like because we do all these things, and I'm sure you feel this, like you have to have that balance of like working but also relaxing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a solo artist. I work full time here, 40 hours a week. I freelance, so I freelance like audio engineer. I do the band stuff. So it's a lot. I mean, I'm trying to kind of like make it make sense instead of like running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But I think like to make things stick, like we always say, and we kind of wrote a song about it the other day, you got to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, so not to say you should do everything. And I think I'm trying to find that balance. Like I said, like definitely there's a point where it's too many things. But you should never have to like sacrifice something because you don't have time. I heard somebody talking about the 4,000 weeks. It was like that interview with the bassist from Fish the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Or however many weeks you have in your life, basically. And it basically talked about, like, I got to read that book because it talks about how you can kind of, like, spread yourself out and not really worry about doing so many things in 1 year or 2 years or 5 years. Like, we're 24 years old. Like, we have a long time to, like, do all these things. So I'm really trying to, like, harness that and, like, have a good time and really, really focus on like the present and like what makes sense to do right at this second.
Yeah.
And everything else will kind of fall into place. At least that's what I'm hoping for, at least.
No, I totally agree.
You know?
Because I keep forgetting, like, we are like 24 years old.
Right.
And that is extremely young. And I feel like we are both very ambitious in our dreams and our goals as artists, and also just like in general as people. And I feel like the pressure, especially like societal pressure, in the sense of like, you know, you have to do this at this age and do that at this age and have this and have that and be there. And I feel like that's just not completely realistic.
Preach.
Because, I mean, it's just too much pressure. And I feel like being patient with yourself as a person and as an artist is extremely important, and it helps with our development. I mean, because I think I'm thinking about like what you said about being patient when it comes to like writing music and producing music, because I feel like there's this like tug of war about like, you know, just drop something, just drop it,
Right.
and don't worry about what other people think. But also like the perfectionist in me
Yeah.
wants to like have it be as cool and as dope as possible.
Right.
And it's like that thin line between not wanting perfection or idealism to get in the way of that, but also being a driving force. I mean, like, how I feel like you are a perfectionist
Oh my God.
a little bit.
It's-
How has that impacted you?
I feel as though, although it's a good thing, it's a fatal flaw.
Yeah.
Because it's like the same thing. I'm having that debate of like, first of all, I've had a couple of songs written for a couple of years now, you know, since I kind of released that last thing in college. And like, nothing wrong with my last album, right? Or like stuff I've written before.
It was really dope.
But I feel as though I'm super campy and I'm trying to kind of escape that. So to go off of what you're saying, I think it's important to like harness the sound that you want to hear, right? So for example, I recorded a song last year that I wrote a couple years ago, and I was like ready to release it. And then I listened to it again and I was like, this sounds country. And again, nothing wrong with country. Like, it's not my style of music, but like nothing wrong with it. It's a beautiful genre. People have awesome story writing. But for me, I like, that's not what I wanted it to sound like. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to wait until I record this and have it sound the way I want it to sound. Is that perfectionism? Probably.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not going to go and release something that I'm not happy with the way that it sounds, and other people are going to not judge me, but when something's out there, it's going to be judged, whether it's good or bad, neutral, no matter what it is, right? So I feel like if you look at it that way, like, yeah, it's perfectionism, but you it's not a bad thing. Like, we both want people to hear things that we want them to hear, right? I don't want to just release something that I recorded and I'm like, oh, it's good enough, and like people will hear it and be like, this is what you've been hyping up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, not that I give a crap what people think, at the same time I do, but like sometimes I don't. But like, it's that tug of war. It's like, you want things to be perfect, but you don't want to beat yourself up over it so much that it becomes like a chore, or it becomes
Yeah.
too like, too roughed out, like where you're like, it's not even what I thought it would be at that point. So I feel like there is a balance there, and it's very difficult to find, because there is a distinct difference between like perfectionism and just like throwing something out because you're impatient. And I think that perfectionism is not always a bad thing, that people like put this like weird view of it, because it's like, oh yeah, like being a perfectionist is like difficult because it's like you'll never get anything done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a limit there, like you could be a perfectionist without like, being too harsh on yourself. I
Yeah.
think there's like definitely a balance.
Yeah. And I think like the thing that I'm working through as an artist and as a person is like pushing through like being too hard on yourself about things. Like, I know me, I'm trying to prioritize practicing more on, piano, and, not trying to bum myself out about like days that I miss. There is enough time in the world for me to do the things that I want to do, like, and just like going back, like, I don't want this to ever feel like a chore for me, because I feel like, this is my passion, this is the thing that I want to do for the rest of my life. And of course, there's like business side of things and like tasks that need to be done that may like seem tedious, but like I never want my passion to feel like a chore. I guess you could say I want it to be a job, of course.
Right.
Like, we've talked about this numerous times about like just wanting to like pack up and like rent a van,
Just go.
and just go across country,
Right.
and just vibe out. Like that would be the dream.
Yeah.
That would be the dream.
No, but I think that's a good point to make, for sure. It's like, it's not something that's going to be instantaneous. It's not something that's going to be like, it's not going to be good if you focus on the end game, and it's also not going to be good if it becomes a chore. So I think like taking all that into consideration, you kind of just like, everything is good in moderation. And not to say you can't sit there for 10 hours one day and play piano, but the next week you might not have time. And like sometimes, there's certain people who make that time to sit down every day and do the thing, even if it's for 30 minutes. And I'm trying to aim for consistency. And I think that's important. But it's also important not to beat yourself up about if you do miss a day, not to like harness that energy. Harness the energy like, oh, I sat down yesterday and the day before, and like, yeah, maybe I don't deserve a break today, but I don't have time to play today, and that's okay. I'll play tomorrow, But I'm on that same journey, because I feel like the hardest part, and I've talked to Chris about this, I've talked to you about this, my whole life, I've done music by ear. So when I was young, I took guitar lessons. I learned how to play classical guitar. I read music, like all this crazy shit I have no idea how to do now, okay? And it's not to put myself down. I'm still a good musician, but there's a huge disconnect right now that I'm having, because I'm 24, and the whole time I've ever played music or written music, it's been by ear, which is not a bad thing. I think you feel that too.
That means that your ear's very, very good.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. Like, I don't have perfect pitch or anything like that, but I could like pretty much hear something and like we could figure it out, you know? Or for example, if we write, like I'll write words, like, and it comes with a melody, and that melody automatically kind of comes with a key without me even realizing it, because when I'm singing it, it comes with notes, it comes with like certain notes. So I'll figure that out and then figure out where I want to go. But my thing is, I don't really know a bunch of theory. So like when I'm like trying to find what chord comes next, I'm merely guessing. And that sounds crazy. But that's what
But it does what
it
it needs to do.
Right, and that's what we're trying to kind of
expand
fix,
upon.
though. Yeah, like where like if I start something and I'm like, okay, like I'm starting on G, and then like I know like, okay, these are the chords I can work with here, and this would sound good, and it kind of helps you kind of get to that end point quicker and less frustrating way. So I definitely think that learning theory is important. Not to say you have to be like a PhD and know like every single thing about music theory, but like knowing the basics, and like for me, learning like the guitar neck and the scales and keys and what chords are going to be in which key and how many flats and sharps, that's important. Like, it may seem like basic for most people that do music, or like it may seem super complicated for people that don't do music, but no matter what the case may be, like I feel as though that's my goal this year, is to really try to dive in to like learning theory, being more consistent, as close to every day as possible of practicing, even if it's for 30 minutes, like 30 minutes to an hour a day, I think would make a huge difference. But yeah.
Yeah.
Something to point out there.
Theory
I think
is very, very interesting.
tedious.
Tedious.
It's hard to transform your brain. Are you having that? Like, I have an issue where, like, it's hard because I'm not used to looking at it that way. Do you know what I mean?
It's very weird because I'm going back into, like, figuring out, like, shapes and stuff, like, on the piano. Like, definitely for me, learning it on the piano first is, like, very nice. I don't know how Chris and Carly do it. I don't know how.
No, guitar is hard.
How do you?
No. The thing is, with the guitar, I finally found the major scale. I've finally, like, learned the major scale. Like, let's bring it back to when I was 8 years old, okay? And so I kind of, like, rock with that. And again, like, I'm not super proud of it, but I'm not proud of it because it's progress.
Yeah.
I used to literally get on the guitar and just noodle around. Like, when I say noodle, I mean, like, by my ear, just figure out, like, what's going on.
But I feel like that, for me, like, that is crazy because I feel like, for me, I feel like I mean, when I was in high school, I don't know if I told you this, I was in choir. And it's like, choir was, like, very, like, sheet music type vibes. And it's like, I don't know how I picked up on this, like, so quickly, but I did.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm kind of, like, going off it, but, like, I'm trying to train my ear. So it's like we're almost
like
on,
sight reading.
like, it's sight reading. So I feel like we're almost on, like, the opposite playing field. I'm trying to get where you're at. You're
I'm trying to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, the thing is, too, like, somebody had explained it. I was watching, like, a video the other day, too. I keep trying to, like, watch videos because I feel like I don't like to read a ton, but I like to be educated and I like to learn. And I was watching a video of this guitar guy the other day, and he was saying, like, what if you were given a map, right, of, like, the whole world, but nobody, like, told you where you're supposed to go, or you don't know how to read the map? It's, like, a similar thing. Like, so once you just learn the basic stuff, like, at least for guitar, and I think piano helps, too, because at least for me, and T is saying this, too, sorry, piano is, like, literally, it's laid out. You can see all the notes at once. And people could say that, like, about guitar, I guess, but, like, it's so much easier to see on the piano.
I would
Like,
agree.
you could see C, 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 D, 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 D sharp, you know, like, you could see all the fucking notes right there,
Yeah.
you know, and it all, like, makes sense, which I love. Like, I like that you can see it, it makes sense, the half steps, the whole steps, all that.
Oh, that's there.
And so I think, like, translating that, whether it be on guitar or piano, you know, they'll help each other. But yeah, it's tough. It's definitely a huge roadblock for me right now. Hoping to hop over that this year.
Which we will.
We will.
We will.
I think it'll open up a lot of doors to be able to kind of just know, again, just the basics. I'm talking, like, music theory 101. I'm not talking anything crazy.
Yeah.
You know, so
Because I feel like you can do a lot with the basics. I feel like once you, like, get that down, it's not much of a hurdle.
Right.
Because it's so... I don't think I ever told you this story. Like, there was this one time where I wrote this song, and I was, like, fumbling over the notes and stuff like that. And mind you, I'm pretty comfortable with, like, all the sharp side of, like, the music wheel or whatever. I have not touched the flats, like, at all. I'm starting to, but, like, it's too much right now. But, like, I ended up, like, writing this song, and apparently it was, like, in B flat, and I've never touched B flat before. So it's like, that stuff is calling me, and I just have to be open to surrendering to learning to it. Because I feel like I know for me personally, it can come off as, like, a roadblock, but I'm trying to see it more of, like, a bridge and a gateway instead, because I feel like there are a lot of ideas that are, like, coming to me, and it's like I may not be able to translate them right now because I don't know the whole thing yet.
Right.
But I feel like it's just a creative process.
It is.
No pun intended.
That's the thing about the creative process, too, that I'm learning. Even working here, like, you see all these people, like, go through the process, and, like, some people get further faster than others. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's all about, like, how you kind of go about it. And, like, I don't know, we've had this conversation before. T is super disciplined about this, though, and I am not.
What?
Social media.
Oh,
I'm going to be straight up about this. Like, I hate social media. Like, as a content creator, it's crazy to say that. But here's the problem I have. All I want to do is pretend that we're in the 1980s and all I have to do is make a record, right? And all I have to do is get somebody to hear that record. I don't have to make a TikTok or post Instagram videos or reels or whatever you want to call it.
It's so taxing.
It's so emotionally and physically taxing that, and I find myself every day, the first thing I do is go on social media. Literally, why? It's because, like we were talking about, the society, like the societal pressure that comes with like going to college at 18, or, you know, you have to have a full-time job after you graduate college, or like even just anything like that society kind of expects you, or it's like, oh, you have to do that thing, air quotes intended, because it's like, it's only you have to do it because somebody said that you did, or like society says that you did. A bunch of people are doing it, so why not? But I get frustrated because I don't want to spend the time like making a social media plan and posting things on social media. And this might sound like super bad, I don't know, but like I'm just being super honest. Like,
No.
again, like it is something I have to do and something I have to get better at because it's not going to go away. But I haven't used TikTok. I don't scroll on TikTok. I don't use my account. I've posted like one video ever, I think, and I love it that way. I don't like any of that stuff. But like the thing is, if we want our music to be heard once we get stuff recorded and on the, you know, online, it is important to like kind of harness in to what society is doing and kind of tap into the communication that's happening at the time, which is kind of unfortunate. But right now it's TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, which is also beneficial though. We were talking about this, how like back in the day, nobody would hear your music unless you were part of a label, which is also a huge roadmap or whatever you want to call it, roadblock, right? But nowadays, independent artists could be heard, which is super important and super, super cool. So I'm not trying to put that down at all. I'm just saying that, like, it's frustrating to have to do all this other content as well as music.
It's a very, like, thin line because definitely, like, oh my God, wait, when we dropped Windows, where were, like, a bunch of people listening to it outside?
Oh my God, it was, like, Sweden or Finland or something?
Shout out, y'all. Thank you for listening.
It
like,
got
that
put
was
on like a playlist
so
or something.
Crazy. Thank you.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we were like, whoa, like, how is this happening?
How did you guys listen to that?
Honestly, most of our streams from that song
A
came
lot.
from Finland.
Yeah. And, oh God, that's so funny. So, like, that's definitely, like, the cool part about it.
It is.
But, like you said, it's like another job to, like, have to create content. And I think that's one of the frustrating things for me, that it's deemed like content, right? Like, I wish it could be as much about the music as possible,
Right.
but it has to be packaged into content.
It's got to be, like, presented a very specific way, not just, like, posting an audio, which, like, you could do.
Yeah.
Like the black screen, right? But, like, it's...
Very cryptic.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's interesting, too, because I feel like we're both, you know, I'm not LLC'd yet. I think T is, right? You did the paperwork and everything. But, like, our businesses are very small and very much just us.
Speaking of which, can you tell us more about Scooter Girl Studios?
Sure, I'll give you a little rundown.
Yeah.
So it's still a huge project I'm working on. It's definitely something that is in the works and is going to be in the works for years and years. But I've accepted that. It's nothing crazy. It's okay. I finally got the branding down, which is huge. It used to be called Carley M. Perloff Productions, which, not shitting on it, great name. It's my own name.
Yeah.
But it is long, and nobody's gonna remember that. And like, at least like Stone is such a good last name for that. Like, you know, like it's
so
like
many
it
people
hits her.
tell me that
It's a great name.
Oh,
but I
man.
wasn't, you know,
Thanks,
I was
bro.
blessed with a super Jewish last name. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But I feel as though I can't use my full name like that for like a production company. So I've rode a scooter like my whole life. It sounds silly. Not an electric scooter. I'm talking like upgraded Razor scooter, but not Razor. It's like a $200-$300 scooter that you would take to like the skate park. And I used to ride it when I was real young. I'd go to the skate park, everything, like the whole 9 yards. If you go on YouTube, I'm sure you can find videos. Anyways, so even in college, everything, even still, I go to the skate park and like I skate and I scoot around. I park my car and I'll take my scooter out and scoot around town because it's so much faster and I enjoy it. I think it's fun. So I kind of like really leaned into that as part of my branding for the company just because I think it's memorable. And it's something that's part of me, which is super important. And it's something that doesn't exist yet. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, Scooter Girl Studios is basically my branding point for my studio. Right now I don't have an actual space. I kind of do. It's like in my basement of my rented apartment. And I have
it's awesome.
It's cool. I have a bunch of cool gear down there. If you look up scootergirlstudios.com, you'll get some pictures. They're not super updated. I got to actually update. I have some more gear that I have to show off. But yeah, so just like slowly kind of upgrading that, buying instruments, buying audio, hardware, and all that, software, plugins, kind of just building up the studio to have the arsenal that you need to have, you know? And I'm kind of just focusing on audio. At first, I kind of was like versatile and being like multimedia. And then I kind of realized that audio is where my strength is, and I don't really want to have to, not to be lazy, but I want to dive into the niche versus becoming super versatile for other people. I like learning different skills for my own skill set and like to be able to like make a quick little animation or make a flyer. You know, I don't want to have to hire everything out. But I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm like, certain things, it's okay to hire out and like to, you know, kind of collaborate with other people. Like me and T collaborate all the time. If there's stuff that like I don't necessarily am not super good at or want to do, like we'll kind of collaborate and like work on that together.
Yeah.
So yeah, but basically it's just like an audio production studio. I'm the only person in the business right now, but that's kind of the hardest part is like I feel like T feels this too. Like I would love to be able to have like an intern or somebody who literally just like runs my social media. I don't need help with anything else right now. Business side, I'll get an accountant and all that when it actually matters. Like I don't make enough money right now through the business to like even do my taxes. Like, you know, like
Same.
it's a very much like a start, like a concept almost more than it is a business. But I'm running it. You know, I have a couple of clients. I fill out my Excel sheet. I do try to make it as though
Carl
it
is starting it up.
Right,
bro.
it's going. And today, actually, after this, I'm trying to go do the LLC paperwork, which I've been trying to do for years, just to have it done.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean much. It just kind of backs you up, and when you do taxes, it has like its own social security number and
Get you started.
right. So I've just been really trying to check that list off of like the things to do to just build that foundation. And while I have a full-time job and a million other things going on, I'm not trying to stress about having a full book. But, you know, having a couple of clients, building up that portfolio online, keeping that website active, giving out business cards, all that kind of stuff. It's been slow, but it's good, though. It's definitely improved since I graduated. That's when I kind of decided I wanted to do this. Like, when I graduated college, I was like, I really want to, like, start my own business. I had never really had that drive before. My biggest goal since I was a baby, young, has been to be a pop star. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is still my goal. That is still my dream. And I will proudly say that until I'm in the grave, okay? But I will say that there's also nothing wrong with having a plan B, C, D, E, F, G, okay? And also doing more than one thing. And not to keep referencing that Fish interview, but it was sick. He, the bassist, was going off about all of these things that he does in his life. Different facets. Like, I'm talking, like, 2 bands. He's got, like, he's writing a script. He's, you know, he's doing all these different things in media and his own life. And I'm like, you know, I feel like that. I feel that, you know? And I feel like sometimes it's like, do I have to choose? But no. You might just have to choose that day or that week and, like, flush something out, you know? But you never have to choose. Like, there's always, like, time to do everything, in my opinion. It's just, like, when it's going to happen. It might be, like, a little bit of a delay, but... You know.
Oh my God.
Do you agree?
I do. Because there's oh God. Do you ever feel like there are just like so many ideas in your head and it's like how am I supposed to like get all this stuff out? But I feel like you just got to take it one day, one idea at a time. And I feel like that's the thing that can be like so emotionally like straining. It's like I want to get like all this stuff out like now, but it just doesn't work that way, and I feel like trying to cope with that is the process, is the challenge.
I agree.
Because oh man, it's just so much stuff I want to do.
So many things.
So many things.
And I think a big difficulty, at least for me, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like you feel this because of the ideas up here, right? Like I get a little bit cluttered and a little bit overwhelmed in the way that I don't really know how to flush it out, or I don't know how to, like, what do I even do first? It's like I have all this stuff going on, and it's like, oh, well, I already started all these other things, but I have all these new things coming out, and it's like, what do I do? Like, if you're confused, so am I by that last sentence, because that's literally how my brain works, okay? Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes I feel you, like, 100%. Like, I'll have this brand new idea, and I'm like, but wait, I have like all these other
I
things
have
that
like
I should do.
how many in the
first.
back?
Yeah, like back
in the back
burner,
seat, like
on the back burner, like cooking up, been boiling for years,
yes.
you know? And that's why today I had booked that studio just to go LLC because I'm sick of talking about it. I keep telling people, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm like, it probably will take me like 2 hours to do the paperwork, pay the $200 and be done with it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's not that deep. It just is something that has to be done. And like, it'll make me feel better because then it's just like one less thing I have to do.
And I feel like it's just all about the first step.
Yeah.
Because I didn't post this yet, and I'm gonna post it soon. But like after like the first episode of the creative process, I was just like basking in this moment because it's like sometimes you legit just have to take the first step, and like after that, it's pretty much like
it's there.
You just leave it in the hands of God, the universe, and just let it be. And I feel like that's the important thing. That is the thing that is of value. Just you taking the first step lets yourself and other people know that like, hey, this is what I want to do, and that's enough.
Right. And I think that's huge too, because I think sometimes we get super overwhelmed, at least I do, about all these things in my head, and I almost want to just not do any of them.
Oh my God.
Because I'm like, listen, like, this is extra. Like, not that it even is. It's completely valid, whatever you're feeling or whatever you want to do. But sometimes it's like, I've always wanted to, like, I used to vlog in college, and it was a lot of work, but I liked it. And I thought it was super fun way for people to see my life, like, as a creator and as an artist behind the scenes, and just as a person. But, like, stuff like that falls off once you kind of are, like, getting all these crazy ideas. And, like, things do fall off because I get overwhelmed. At least for me, I get overwhelmed. And I don't, we talked about before, we don't want it to become a chore, right?
Yes.
So it's like there is a balance there of, like, the 4,000 weeks. What are we going to do right now? What are we going to do in this year? What projects do we want to focus on this year? And then maybe next year we'll work on a vlog or whatever. Like, I'm really trying to give myself grace with that because I think stressing yourself out and like overwhelming yourself with all these ideas is not a bad thing. It's great. Some people like wake up and don't have anything that they think about.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that either. I'm just blessed and very grateful to have those thoughts and those ambitions. But I get very much overwhelmed because I don't know like what to do with them always. But I think we've had this whole conversation the whole time is just being patient with the journey and deciding what makes sense to do right now. And what makes sense to do maybe next year or the year after once I have a foundation. Is something make more sense to do before something else? Maybe, right? So, yeah, I think prioritizing is important.
Oh God, prioritizing.
And, like, really diving into, like, what do I really want to do? Like, there's a lot of ideas of all these things you can do. And I think honing in on what you really want to do at the moment also helps because it doesn't feel forced or like a chore. It feels like something you actually want to do. Like recently, not to say I don't always want to make music, but recently like I'm itching to just like sit down and make solo music for myself because I have all these cool ideas that I want to flush out. Or even like the other day we had a really cool jam with like the band and we have like 3 songs that I really just want to sit down and like flush out because they are sick. Like it's sweet.
We were doing some crazy shit the
So
other couple of weeks.
And it's crazy. To like think about that kind of stuff because like it just all kind of flubs around in my brain, but it will eventually come out.
And then oh man, it's so funny because I feel like sometimes I get nervous about like if I don't put attention to every idea that's coming to my mind, it's gonna like leave me and never come back. But I think one thing that's coming to mind, Luna, she mentioned like sometimes you can ask for those ideas to come back to you. And I feel like that in itself is just like really interesting and really powerful because I feel like everything that is attached to us or like everything that is called to us or for us will be for us.
Yeah.
And I feel like remembering that is extremely important in the sense of like, you want to be a pop star, we want to be this sick ass band, we want to have our studio, we want to make music for the rest of our lives and just like have fun doing it. I feel like that'll come to us because we're called to it.
I agree. I think that's like a gem in itself. Like that is a whole ass gem right there.
Oh, stop.
Because like, no, because certain people, again, like I said, are called to certain things, right? So some people wake up one day and they're like, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a lawyer, or I want to, own an H&M, or whatever the case may be. Like, but we wake up every day and we want to make music, or we have a song idea that we want to write, and it's been since we were so young, and just has been through our whole lives up to this point, has been a consistency. Things change and things are inconsistent, but that is the one thing, at least for me, and I'm sure I'm speaking for T in this way, that's been consistent. And I think that is very important to take note of, because if it's there all the time through all the change, it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? So like it could be like you are being called to this thing, and it might not be a straight line. It might not be like something that you pick up and you're able to shred the guitar right away. At myself, because I get so angry when I sit down and I'm like hitting a wrong note every 5 seconds.
Oh my God.
But
Same.
next year I might be able to sit down and like shred. Hopefully, that's the goal, because I'm putting in the work and the consistency. So, and I think the big thing, and then I'll shut up for a little bit. But the biggest thing that comes to me with that statement is like, you are given the drive and the passion and the tools, right? You might not have all the knowledge yet, or all of the roadmaps, right? All the direction, but you have the important things. You have the tools, you have the drive and the passion. And then to make that consistent is just to dive in, right? And use those tools and the drive and the passion to build up that skill set. And I think that that's important. And I think that that is the key, is just to like really, like you said, harness in on like, that's what we want to do every day. And so if you're given those tools and those passions, like harness in that, and you're not going to know everything right away, and that's okay. That's part of it. That's part of the process, is like loving the learning part, And music is one of those things you'll never learn everything, which I love. You could like spend your whole life studying music and be like, have a PhD and all this stuff and still not know half of it, for real.
It's
crazy.
It's a vast canvas, because you're dealing with like styles of music, how to play,
theory,
and just like theory, and it's crazy. It's insane.
It is wild.
It is a very big book that is probably still being written.
Yeah, for real.
It's crazy.
For real, especially with all the new technology. Like, not to be that guy that says that, but technology unlocks doors. As much as we hate to say it, I hate to say it sometimes, because like I believe I was born in the wrong generation.
Same.
I love this time of the world, but I also believe if I was born in like the 70s or the 80s, I'd be cool, because I like, again, hate social media, and I'm cool with just like chilling with like a guitar and an amp and like whatever.
If only it was that.
Or a drum kit.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think this was a really cool conversation, though. I had a really good time chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you, buddy.
What else? Did I drive you off track? Is there anything we want to chat about further?
I mean, God, we could sit here for hours, honestly.
Forever.
But we are busy. But we should probably mention a little bit more about Cuddle Puddle. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like people might think it's a giant facade, because I feel like we only have like one song out, and like we play out. But like, and we've
had
be like,
3 very successful shows.
We have. The shows were great. People love it. We're in the green, which money doesn't matter, but it's nice because we have a little chunk of change that we can use to like buy merch. We're trying to do like merch 2.0 and like just buy like stuff that we need and not have to dip into our pockets, which is really nice. So that's been really cool, and I really have enjoyed seeing us improve. And like we kind of had like a big meeting last week and kind of was just like, we're having a great time, but let's like hone in on like individually practicing still, because Chris lives in Long Island, so it's a little bit tough because we only see each other like once every month and a half. So it's really important for T and I, because we live close, to like get together and practice more and just kind of like hone in on that and like hone in on our skills. But I'm loving Cuddle Puddle. I think that all 3 of us kind of have a really good way of like bringing our own styles and our own music to the table and like turning it into something beautiful when it's combined together with the rest of us. And yeah, I really am super excited for the world to see. We've only been together for about a year now too, so.
Which is very weird.
Yeah.
Because it feels longer.
It does. But I think it's important to note because it is like a business if you think about it like that. Like the first year is going to be like it's a slow process. I mean,
Yeah.
especially with Chris living away, it's a process for us all to get together and like, you know, improve and write and all these things versus if we were to do it like every week, right? But it's kind of cool because we all are kind of busy and do our own thing, but come together and do this thing, and it's a beautiful thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
And it turns heads, I'd say.
Yeah, I feel like we do turn heads. And I think one of the cool things about Cuddle Puddle is, like, for me, I've definitely been challenged to, you know, better myself as a solo artist. And I feel like you guys have definitely pushed me to just, like, expand the reaches of my creativity and my artistry. And I'm just, like, really grateful for that. And
Preach.
I'm just, like, really excited to see what we do next. And yeah, watch out for us. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be some cool stuff. Yeah.
I think one last thing to mention about Cuddle Puddle is like me and T got a little bit caught up focusing on the business aspect because we want people to, like we were talking about, we want people to see us, right? So social media, actually, I've been focusing more. We were really focusing on like that for Cuddle Puddle for a while and like the business side and whatever you want to call it. But now we're kind of taking a step back and going backwards because we think we kind of rushed that a little bit. And we really want to focus on like writing and like having a solid set list of originals and covers and all these things like to back us up, you know what I mean? Like to actually show the world like what we are versus just being like the business side. So yeah, I just think that's something that could be shared because I think that's a similar
and I feel
vibe.
it's a very interesting path that we were on. And I feel like it's not necessarily a wrong thing. I feel like we definitely learned we definitely know what kind of promoters we should and should not work with.
Yes. We've definitely had experience.
We definitely had experiences.
I'm not going to say names or anything.
Nah. But
if you know, you know.
You know.
It was a cool experience.
It was a very cool experience. It was dope.
And the shows that we had were great. Like, we had a lot of people come out all 3 times, like different groups of people. The Fire, shout out to the Fire.
Yes.
Super cool experiences. I don't know. I played out when I was young, but it was never in a venue.
No.
I think that was the first time I ever played out in like a real venue. So that was really, really, really cool. Honestly, out of body experience. To be honest,
it was a very out of body experience.
Like every time, it's very much magical and super, super awesome. So
yeah,
very grateful for that opportunity, and hopefully, obviously, to keep doing that.
Yeah, I love performing, especially with you guys, because I feel it's very interesting how like performing has influenced and also just like guided how I play. And I feel like, you know, bringing that to the recording and, you know, writing process will definitely be interesting.
For sure. I agree with that.
It's definitely influenced like what definitely on my end what I would like to do with Cuddle Puddle. Yeah, and we're just kind of like we're putting ourselves in the writing, producing stages of things again. Because, I mean, initially when we were getting together, I guess we could give them a timeline. We started out just, like, jamming at the Boom Room. Shout out to Gary.
No pressure. We were just, like, getting together, playing, right? Like, we weren't even like, oh, let's make a band. Yeah. We were just like, let's play music. And I think that we're trying to get back to those roots. I think that's where we're trying. Because we kind of got... We'll continue on after we did that.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, we kind of, like, started jamming, and then Chris and Carley had reintroduced some, like, cool songs, and we took some time, recorded them, and Windows ended up being the one that we wanted to push forward. We released it, and during that time, we got booked for a couple of shows at the Fire, and we just learned a lot about, like, you know, what we want to bring to the table for an audience. And I know...
Which is huge.
It's very huge, because I feel like Chris mentioned this, and I feel like I definitely want to bring that to the table with, like, recording. Like, just wanting to give the audience a good time is something that I definitely want to do, like, as a member of Cuddle Puddle, like, whether it be on the stage or whether or not you're listening to us on Spotify. So I feel like we're in a very like creative space right now to like make some new stuff, and also I don't know, I would love to dig up some old stuff too,
Oh
and
my
like
God, yeah.
reimagine a couple of things.
That's the thing. We have to that's the hard part, is like we're at
Yes.
the point where we have like maybe about 10 songs, give or take a couple of the new ones we wrote, right? That could be flushed out. But 10-ish songs, originals, whether that be T wrote them, I wrote them, or Chris wrote them, or we wrote them together. It's kind of a combo. And I think it's important to like note that like although we have all these songs written, right, it's hard to record. Like it's hard to get like whatever you want like onto, you know, a recorded thing. We have a single in the works now. It's been in the works for months and months and months. We re-recorded it about 3 times. And it's cool because I think this album that we want to do, and again, there's no timeline, and I think that that's been, because me and T had a timeline for a while. We would like every week we would meet and we would like have a to-do list with like all these dates, and not to say that that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's definitely fine.
It's good to hold yourself accountable.
Yes.
But we wanted to make it where it's not super stressful, and it's like it's more of like a flow, free flow, ebb and flow type of thing. And like if Chris is here and we feel like recording, we can do it. Even when he was here last time, we recorded the bass. It might not be the final bass take, but it'll help us be able to mix,
some perspective.
And it's tough too, because like as much as I want to keep writing new stuff, I want to record the stuff that we already wrote because it's sick, and I feel like we can make a really, really cool album out of it, doing like the style of like it's produced but a live take. So this last single that we recorded, we went in the live room here at Rec and recorded it in one take. And like obviously we're gonna, you know, fix a couple of chord blips or whatever, but for the most part it's almost a near perfect take. At least what I believe is perfect. We overdubbed the bass. We don't have a bass player yet. We're working on that, which is interesting. Little insider scoop. You know, but I think it's cool to see that though, because we're kind of like going backwards, but in a good way. We're going backwards to like roots that matter, right? We kind of skipped ahead to the business part because we didn't want to miss out on that, but we kind of have to back up and go back to the music, right, where it matters. Try to get this stuff recorded, practice, learn theory, all these things that like are super important, and just kind of being consistent with it and like driving that into our solo careers as well as Cuddle Puddle. And I think it's all super helpful. It is collaborative, and it's all like intertwined as well. As much as it is separate, it's intertwined, which is super cool.
That's the really cool thing. Like, as much as, like, because we, like, from a creative and artistic standpoint, I feel like we're really different.
I agree.
But I feel like the fact that we're able to come together and, like, create some really cool stuff is really cool.
Yeah, like, our styles of music are all very different.
Very different.
Which is super interesting because, like, usually when you combine different music styles like that drastically different, it doesn't work and it's weird. But for us, for some reason, it does work. And there's a lot of bands out there, a lot of solo artists, a lot of things going on. I support everybody. But I will say I think that Cuddle Puddle, as well as everybody else, has something special. And it's important to kind of like understand that no matter how many musicians there are in the world, everybody's got their own special sauce, if you will. I think that Cuddle Puddle really does have a cool vibe, and I think that we have something to give, as well as T does, as well as I do, as well as Chris does, separately. In our separate projects, we bring those together, and it's just a cool kind of concept. I think that's kind of how the name even came to be in the first place in college. It was like kind of a melting pot of like vibes. That's kind of like how I describe it. You know, it's a melting pot of vibes, and everybody can kind of vibe, no matter what kind of music you like are into. I would say it's even borderline rap sometimes, the way I be spitting.
Yeah.
Like fast.
We be doing some crazy shit.
And then you got like R&B influence. You got Chris is like Fish, jam inspired, rock. I got a little pop in there. So it's very much a cool variation of stuff that works together well. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. And that project will just be what it is. And it might take us 5 years to get this album done, and if it does, you know what? It takes us 5 years, and that's okay.
But we'll be doing some, like, really cool stuff in between, and just, you know, not, like we've been talking this whole episode, just, like, not rushing the process and just being patient.
That's huge.
Because, being patient as an artist, because
it's the hardest part.
It's so, everything is so, like, microwavable and popcorn.
Yeah.
And I feel like just not following that societal norm is important to do. And
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way to put it. Even yesterday, I made a Stouffer's meal. On the back, it says microwave option, or it says you got some more time? Convection oven, right? It's like the microwave takes 3 minutes. Okay, that's great. That's what I did. There's no oven here. But the convection oven takes like 30 minutes, but it probably tastes better, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I know it sounds kind of a funny
Crispy
analogy.
edges from the baking, yeah.
Exactly. So it's got like an analogy there where it's like, yeah, you can microwave something and it still is cooked. Or you can bake it in the oven. And it might take 10 times as long, quite literally. 3 minutes versus 30, right?
Yeah.
But is the quality better?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So I think I'll leave it at that. That's a pretty
Quality
good. That's a
over
pretty
quantity.
good
Yeah. I feel like
analogy to leave off.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh man.
Any last thought? Thanks for having me, T.
Oh, thank you.
Y'all,
My first guest, y'all. Please give it up for Carley.
thank you.
Silent claps and snaps.
I'm just kidding. No, T, you're killing it, bro. I'm so stoked about this show for you. I think you do
thank
just
you.
so many awesome things, and I think it's really cool that you get to share like all of your experiences and your story through this, and appreciate you always.
I'm just extremely grateful for you, both because of being a part of the show and just like being my friend and being one of my awesome creative partners. I truly love you and appreciate you, bro.
No, same. It's always good as a team. It's better to do things together. There's nothing wrong with doing stuff by yourself, but it's helpful to have a team or at least supportive people. Even I'm about to invite T. If I don't know what she's doing, but if she wants to come sit in the room while I do my business
legit. I was legit about to ask because I actually
have some stuff to do.
Have some stuff to do.
It's always easier to work on stuff when there's somebody else in the room. At least I think so, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're both kind of like being collaborative and productive at the same time.
Exactly.
But yeah, I guess we'll go do some stuff instead of
All right.
talking
Yeah.
about it,
So, yeah. This has been episode 2 of the Creative Process with Carley and Perloff. We are going to skedaddle because we are 2 awesome business artists and we got some shit to do. So we will see you all later. Check us out.
That was crazy.
That is crazy, yo.
But yeah, I also want it to be known, because this might be cut out, but this is why I didn't sit like this the whole time. Because I look like a 12-year-old.
That's
but if
not
I sit like this,
true.
it makes me look tall.
Oh my god. That's Carley, everybody. And this is T. And this has been the Creative Process. Peace.